Start about myself. I'm Ribhi El-Zaru. I'm a Palestinian American software developer, primarily a back-end developer. I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, if everyone probably went to school to Boston, in Boston here. So I've worked primarily in the startup scene. I was a co-founder of a startup when I was 20 and was part of a Mass Challenge incubator there, and I got to kind of learn about building code quickly and the importance of that. After my time at the startup, I worked at this company called ThreatStack, which is a cybersecurity company. I was a platform engineer there, and I got like a real nice taste of what it means to work at large scale. ThreatStack was ingesting kind of terabytes of data a day with through Kafka. So I got to, it was really amazing, a really amazing experience. And then after about 4 years there, I worked at Stash in New York City, which is a fintech bank, as a fraud platform engineer. Another awesome experience. I got to learn a lot about really strong programming protocols and writing clean, understandable code. Currently, I'm actually working in Palestine as a backend engineer at a startup underneath Iztech. A fun fact about me is my favorite language is Scala. I don't know if anybody here has ever used Scala. It's kind of a niche language, but I highly recommend it, especially if you work in the Java world. It's like it's a functional language, but built on the JVM, so it has all these object-oriented protocols that you can kind of fall back on if you want, but it's primarily built in a functional way, which is it's really powerful and strong for like data analysis. People use Spark a lot for it, and I'm very passionate in distributed systems with tools like Kafka, like having scalable database like Elasticsearch, and yeah. So I'm here to kind of talk about what how AI has changed programming in the day-to-day, and how we should use it and how we shouldn't use it. It's specifically for, I don't want to tell anybody really how to program. It's for people explaining how to kind of get the most out of AI, and also what to be wary of when you're using AI. I think it's really great for junior developers kind of navigating a world where AI is the norm. I guess I'm lucky enough to have started my career in the era of Stack Overflow, and really having to find specific expertise in running through docs and learning kind of all the benefits of that. And I've noticed with a lot of junior developers I work with now that that's just not the case anymore. People just kind of ask AI and hope, and the first instinct is not to go to Stack Overflow or to go to the docs, and I think that that's kind of a big mistake. Just tech leads and managers to understand what AI tools are really useful and what kind of limitations they have. Same with non-technical startup founders, to understand what you can use to jumpstart your idea and to get a proof of concept, so that you can kind of build your team, get the funding you need, get the momentum, and understanding, once again, like what you fully can do and what you kind of need to get technical support for. And similarly with tech educators and mentors, how to use AI to kind of ramp people up to speed and teach software and good software development patterns to people. I think AI is really useful for that. So the general contents are talking about AI and the modern programmer, what it is and what it's used for, what AI kind of gets right in our day-to-day, what AI gets wrong in our day-to-day, the understanding that we're the architects of AI, so don't let it drive. Some basic tips and tools with AI effectively that I think in our day-to-day we should definitely use AI in to make sure that our lives are as productive as possible. A little brief demo where I show AI into practice with code and then demonstrate where I would have improved it. And then an interactive session at the end if you have a prompt you want to see how it works with like a GitHub Copilot and whatnot, and you want to kind of do a pair programming. I'm glad to do that at the end. I think that's very fun. And I want to reiterate that like I don't want to tell anybody how to code. You're a great coder. People here are definitely good coders, even if you code in Vim and everything. It's more just an overview of where AI fits into our day-to-day. So just some brief tools that I think are that people will be familiar with on the right. So as we all know now, there are really dozens of effective AI tools focused on our programming space. Like if you notice here is Claude. It's similar to ChatGPT as an LLM, but with a programming software focus. There's a GitHub Copilot. It's a tool that I'm sure a lot of us will use every day. Integrates within our Visual Studio IDE. We get live agent work with it, and it's really an amazing tool. There's CodeRabbit. I think CodeRabbit is a tool I learned this year. It's a PR review tool that integrates with your either your GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, and it gives feedback on your code and allows you to kind of customize its settings, etc. GitHub Copilot does it as well, but I've really enjoyed using CodeRabbit. This is Cursor. Cursor is kind of a brand new IDE. It's a Visual Studio fork, and it comes with a built-in AI agent similar to GitHub Copilot. And then there's a new there's kind of new tools popping up like Lovable right here at the bottom, where you just kind of, I'm sure some of you have seen it, where you just put in a prompt and it tries to generate an app for it. I really recommend just trying this out to just see what the big fuss is about. I think at a basic level, it's really amazing. You can have an idea and you can like chat your way to a UI really quickly. Especially for me, as not a front-end developer, I've really enjoyed seeing these tools used. But I think ultimately it's really important to we're in this new space where the barrier of entry to programming is lower than ever before. With basic programming and terminology and like proficient copy and paste skills, you're able to generate basic running applications faster than ever. On first glance, sounds great. Like we're going to be able to code faster than ever. We're going to be able to deliver products faster than ever. We can make ultimately businesses want to make money faster than ever, and that's all super wonderful. But I think that it's really important that we kind of take everything with a grain of salt, because we need to use AI to empower us. And coding, if we just look at coding as prompts and dialogue, there's lots of quick pitfalls that we'll end up to that I think a lot of programmers who work with AI in their day-to-day quickly run. So just as like a quick joke, what we want to become with AI, we want to basically rule over our AI minions to have an amazing functional world where we're running it. They do all the dirty work, where we are the ones in control. And what we do not want is for the well-intentioned AI to accidentally destroy us with where we're over-reliant on AI. We are unable to debug live production bugs. We didn't write the code, so we don't know really what it does. I think that's the biggest concern I see when I see people really using AI a lot. We also can, AI can often build code that doesn't really anticipate real-world scenarios that you understand and business needs. And I think the biggest, most crucial issue that I want to make sure that I think all developers should avoid is we need to make sure that we still understand low-level systems and aim for deep expertise instead of deferring to AI. I've seen a lot of places where, especially when it comes to like tuning Kafka jobs and Kafka consumers, where you really need to know every single consumer setting pretty well and understand it to have the right combination. And if you're just outputting AI, like saying, how do I make this handle our messages faster, it won't know the actual problem. Like you need to understand what messages you're getting into. This is very Kafka specific, but you need to understand what your payloads are going to be, what the issues like CPU, all the stuff is still relevant even in this AI world. And so actually, a new study just came out on July 10th, a couple weeks ago, by this organization called Meter. I think if you Google it, you'll be able to find it. But Meter is a nonprofit organization, and it studies AI capabilities. It's basically a research think tank. They released a study 2 weeks ago that it took place over 2025, where they took 16 developers who have used AI moderately, asked them to complete 246 tasks in large and complex projects where they've had like open source projects where they've had about 5 years of prior experience. And so they asked economists, machine learning experts, developers during the study and developers after the study, how much faster they would expect to be or they felt they were while using AI. And basically everybody said, yes, I felt faster, it's going to be faster. And so I forgot to mention, so quickly, like 140 of the tasks you were allowed to use AI with, and then the others you were not allowed to use AI with. And so that's how they did the benchmark of the speed. And in reality, whereas everyone expected a speed up in productivity, the observed result was actually a 20% slowdown, which I thought was very interesting, especially because the developers who actually did the coding and were programming, they felt like they were moving faster, even though they took longer to do the tasks. Now there's a lot. The study is 50 pages long. It's very detailed, and there's lots of nuance to it, of course. But I think it's a very interesting idea to keep in mind. And I think it shows that currently, maybe it'll change in 5 years, but there's a certain threshold of programming expertise where AI can definitely struggle. It doesn't know your projects, and in big production projects, we've got multiple microservices, tens of thousands of lines of code, and it doesn't know that intrinsically better than you or the people who've developed that project. As a developer also, if you're familiar with a project's general design pattern or how you structure your code, your HTTP, your Kafka, etc., you can jump to conclusions that it might take a while for AI to get to, that it needs specific input to understand much faster. And I don't think that this is necessarily universal. Like AI is definitely faster than me at writing a hello world endpoint or like a health check. But it shows that there's still a lot of work we need to do as developers, and we can't just use it as a crutch. It's not there where we can just kind of plug it in, sit back, and enjoy the rewards. We need to use it to help us, not just use it to use it. And so here's some kind of basic places where I use AI. I think that if you're a software developer, you definitely used it here, which is code generation and auto-completion. The autocomplete with GitHub and with GitHub Copilot and Cursor, it's awesome to plug into your day-to-day. It's highly useful for JSON generation, building mock API requests, and anything where you would tediously copy and paste code or learn like complicated Vim commands, think copying all the keys in an object. AI is just much better at that, and there's no point in doing it. Like sometimes it makes errors, which I hope that you have compilation checks on your code that prevent bad keys and whatnot. But it's much faster than it used to be and much better than the copy and paste. So definitely code generation, auto completion, AI wins. I think that one place that if you're not using it right now, you should definitely use it is in code review. There's tools like Codium, CodeRabbit, GitHub Copilot just released that do amazing jobs reviewing your PRs. I like really thorough PR reviews, and you can tune them to be as nitpicky as you want, have alphabetize your imports, like have all your constants at the top of the file, have all these specific things, and tell it ultimately, and it will move it. It will review your code to make sure you reach that standard. This is really nice for initial first review runs to take feedback from before kind of sending it out to your team and potentially like take away from their time for the basic nitpick, poorly named variables, if statements that could, or for loops that could be done in a more clean way, etc. And I've noticed like for my personal use as like personal side projects, it's really an amazing thing to work with to ensure your code meets a high standard always. So I really highly recommend using it for code review and refactoring. I'm not going to get into too much of the debugging and errors, but there's great tools like Sentry, for example, that integrate AI. Like lots of tools are integrating AI with their log ingestion and error log ingestion to understand what's happening. Use AI to give you an overview of what's happening. in your system, in your logs. This is really useful for finding bugs faster than ever, and giving you the context you need to understand bugs. Sometimes they're pricey, but I find they're incredibly useful for production, as parsing through logs by yourself is very time intensive. And when you have a bug, it's priority number one to use to fix it. So definitely, I would recommend looking into AI with your log ingestion. And then in less of a day-to-day, but in general, I really think it's an amazing place for just general system design, to kind of bounce off design proposals, also just output design proposals in a professional way. We're not copyright as developers. We don't write professional text, but LLMs are great at writing readable text quickly. So I love using it for that, especially ChatGPT and Claude. But this especially should not be abused, because I've noticed, and I think a lot of people who've used AI would probably agree, that AI ultimately just, at the end of the day, it will agree with you. You have to kind of tell it to disagree with you. So just keep that in mind. If AI tells you that it's right, it's probably just because it always does that. You have to ask it, what are the scale points? What are the issues? What are the concerns? And so I always ask AI to be mean and contentious with me, and find that very useful. And I think the most important thing is that whatever design AI comes up with is not useful if the whole team does not understand it and agree on it. It's the most important thing with a design is not that it fits a solution. There's many different designs that fit solutions, but it's important to have a system that everybody on your team understands, agrees on, and is excited to implement. So at the end of the day, it's still important to get human feedback. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about this new phenomenon I've heard about, which is called vibe coding. I'm sure you've heard it on Twitter a lot. People oftentimes, like, for example, this tweet by Andrej Karpathy, a very successful and talented engineer. He's a founding member of OpenAI and a former director of AI at Tesla. He clearly loves AI and understands it very well. But I think he had a kind of a dangerous take on Twitter, which is that he says, there's a new kind of code I call vibe coding, where you fully give into the vibes, embrace exponentials, and forget that code even exists. I ask for the dumbest things, like decrease the padding on the sidebar by half, because I'm too lazy to find it. I accept all always. I don't read the diffs anymore. So I think that this is very bad. We should not be living in this vibe coding world now, maybe in the future, but right now I do not think AI is at that level. And I think that just by saying that I don't read the diffs anymore, I accept all, I ask for the dumbest things, I think this is like the root consequence of it that we should be trying to avoid. Not only, even if it builds things perfectly, by not understanding it, you can't do things that you need to do at scale, which is iterate and adjust existing logic. Business requirements change all the time. I'm sure everybody agrees on that. You won't really know where bugs or important business decisions happen in your app. And let me go ask AI is really not a valid answer to that. So just don't fall into the vibe coding trap. It's great for personal projects. In fact, he actually tweeted this while writing a LLM app to analyze wealth of nations while he was reading it, which is incredibly telling, and also not a professional application. So just some of the general pitfalls of vibe coding that I've seen, where you just input prompt, take what it gives you, and go, yay, it runs. Oftentimes, you just have spaghetti code, which is ultimately, if you're not familiar, hopefully you're not too familiar with it, it is just long files of hard to understand code that works, but is very unclear. If you're just writing prompts all the time until code works, you aren't taking the time to organize and compartmentalize your code accordingly for your best success. You'll end up with like a large unwieldy file that misses lots of opportunities, like dry or abstract classes to help out and to help build your code out scalably. Like for example, like sync jobs, where you have to take a specific information, maybe that information changes. You want to write an abstract class for that more so than you want to just have a file for each. You end up with kind of inconsistent patterns across files and projects. There's lots of great patterns within programming, but the only wrong pattern is to use more than one, in my opinion. You really need to be diligent if you're using AI to have an idea of what the desired pattern is for, and making sure that it outputs that. So it's still involved. You have to make strong programmatic decisions on how you want to organize yourself. I've also noticed that there's consistent security and performance blind spots with AI. AI is really good for algorithms and whatnot, but it doesn't seem to really have the same concerns for security and strong like indexing that developers do. There's been so many videos I've seen where people show AI output code for really very essential security, like JWT authorization and whatnot, where the AI just tells them, check the user ID, no encryption, no decryption happening, check if it matches. If it matches, you're good. And that's just not how you should be doing it. So you really need to be owning and dictating these these highly important parts of your application. And you can't trust AI at this point. And this, even with database queries, you know your database better than AI does. You can't just trust AI to design query patterns and indexes. You need to make those decisions, because a slow query can have very bad consequences. And I think the biggest issue is, and I think we really need to make an investment as people to avoid, as developers to avoid this, is to have this kind of copy paste mentality without comprehension. Like, running code that works is really useless if you can't understand it and change it and fix it if it's not right, or adjust it to have a different output quickly. And at the end of the day, you're going to be the one in trouble and not AI. So you have to make sure that you understand things. And I think most importantly is sometimes it just doesn't work. Earlier today, I wanted to use Lovable to create kind of a simple a nice application, like moderately complex news bias analyzer, where I would like put in an article and it would run some sort of analysis on its sentiment, on where its political leanings were, where if it was optimistic, if it was really like source oriented, etc. And I didn't want to write any code, so I just used the prompt. It took 10 minutes of generation, which was great. And I was very excited to plug it in. And then I tried to use it, and it just didn't even work. So I needed to go in and learn all the code that it was output to fix this bug. I discovered all the design decisions that it made for me. And ultimately, really what it did is it just used a third party for the analysis. It didn't even write a nice like NLP analyzer, which I was sad about. So I would have to keep prompting. But at the end of the day, I could find these specific questions I want to ask and use AI to generate code when I have a really strong idea of it, much better than quote unquote vibe coding. So it's really important that at the end of the day, we are like code literate. And I had some more specific like backend prompts that I wanted to use. I wanted to build a cluster that connects to agents via TCP connections. So like I have a running process that has a unique ID and an organization ID. We're able to send common messages to all the processes that share the organization ID, using kind of the server to output and fan out these messages. Ask it to be horizontally scalable, so each node in the server cluster should be able to communicate with each other to forward messages accordingly. If an agent with a unique ID makes a connection and another agent has that unique ID, the old unique ID should be disconnected. It's a nice thing to have in your pocket. And so I was excited to see what AI did without any sort of input. And it was like, I was a little bit sad about it. It was like, it didn't follow my ESLint, which my fault for using TypeScript. All the logic was just in one file. There was actually a security issue with sourcing common ID. It would just get the common ID from the from the message. So if I said I'm number A, I belong to organization B, it would just accept it. Now this would be complicated with like JWT tokens and whatnot, or like some sort of signing, but it didn't even mention this, which was kind of a problem. If you just kind of output that, you're introducing a large, or publish that for your company, you're introducing a massive security risk. There was some performance issues. For example, it does like, instead of building the lookup map for the unique ID here, it just it iterates through the whole list every time, which is okay if you have 10 clients, but if you have 50 clients, it's not. Or 500 clients, 5,000, which is very, something you would want to be able to handle. And I think one thing that AI always does is that it creates code as constants. So you can only make one, and you can easily change that with a prompt, like make this, add a constructor, so I can create more than one. But it doesn't seem to be its default state. But like, credit where it's due, it's a fantastic start, and it's really great for a quick demo. So I did the same for the clients. So this was the server, and I wanted to see what the client would look like, and the client was a lot like, it was a lot sadder. The issues were more apparent here. It was a constant as well. You couldn't even iterate over like 20 times to make multiple clients. For some reason, it decided the unique ID was going to be client 3 every time. There's no server customization. You're just connecting localhost port 4000. So it doesn't show you how to demo this against the cloud if you're working with a cloud CCP connection. How can I customize this? It's not very clear. Does it retry? It doesn't do retries on connects. It just knows how to connect if it's able to, write that it joined, and then return data and send a health check. And it's a simple piece of code, but it immediately defaulted to bad habits. So I did like a little bit of an improvement on that, where it kind of, like, definitely using AI, but just want to show you what it looked like before. So this is the server. Sorry for the quick jump to a VS Code. And here's the client, and it's nice. It's sending. It works. This is very important that it's working. But you're missing lots of like nice customizability that I will admit takes a little bit of little more work. So this was the original client, which to make it have join, I made it a little bit more scalable here, or so I can play around with the group count, the clients per group. Nice, easy to do. But I decided to kind of iterate on it with a constructor. I won't go too much into the code, but it's like a nice like message handler here. I'd be impressed if AI outputted this immediately. It would be great if it did. And it has a message handler that takes in our shared messages so that we know exactly where it runs, etc. So there's a lot more going on, but it's a much more robust solution that AI did not get to very quickly, and it takes it won't. I don't think that prompts will do it if you're not informed about the problem that you're trying to solve. And it's very nice. I hope if it connects. Classic. Okay, here we go. It's very loud, unfortunately. Here it's the server is telling everybody to report. In broadcast receiving, it says when they report for quote unquote duty. And it's nice. It's a quick thing. There's a little bit of an error. I think I should fix that. But yeah, so nice little JSON log instead of, if you saw before, it was kind of controlled, just like a console.log. I used Winston here. So the point being is that there's a lot of work to happen that needs to happen before AI can kind of land on its feet and be fully production quality. I don't want to say that my code is like 100% production quality right now, but I think that it does. It is more clear. Like if I want to assemble or change what happens when we get an assemble message, there's one place to do it. It's not just one large script that was here. So anyways, something similarly with Kafka. I really love Kafka, and so I wanted to build a Kafka client and a pool of consumers that listen to a sales topic and logs the sale when we get it, producer that publishes a sale at every half second. We should have a customer UID to make random, as well as a JSON of details of the purchase. And this was it was pretty strong, but there's just similar issues, all hard coded once again. I'm sure I could fix it with a prompt, but this is the idea. Like, you can't, it doesn't get everything right on first bat, but things that are very trivial to developers, it doesn't really conceptualize quickly. There's no way to create more than one consumer. This is like definitely Kafka 101. You want to be able to create more than one consumer. Did not listen to my payload ask, unfortunately. And it's ultimately just a script. It's just like a main file where I can run and understand Kafka, which is great in a way. And then similarly, I asked the producer to the AI to write a producer. It's also hard coded. It did keep the minions theme, which was interesting. I didn't know AI would be able to generate these words, but and it was a good base to build off of. Ultimately, I won't be too bad on it, but I think it does a great job of highlighting kind of the general limitations of being over reliant and using AI to generate all this code. As whenever you have a problem, to default to AI, you need to take time to kind of think about it, what you need to do still, just like we've always done. And just for the sake of demo, here's my Docker file that I wrote with AI. I think AI is amazing for writing Docker files. Um, so nice, all these sales. It does a great job, I will say, for a quick demo. Like, you understand what's happening. It does a nice little output, price, quantity, etc. So and it's really good for scripts and proof of concepts and whatnot. But I would not be happy if it was. I wouldn't be satisfied if I proposed it as in my PR for adopting Kafka into my projects. So we'll turn down my Docker and go back. So I kind of want to rehash some of the pros and cons. And I'll put first pro is that it's great at outputting lots of code and scenarios quickly for scripting and in basic understanding. And the con of that is it's always liable to just output things that don't fit your project or your patterns. So you have to keep that in mind. Feed it what it needs to do. Kind of constantly babysit it, I would say. I kind of look at it as a nice like rubber ducky you can have and squeeze, and it comes up with great ideas. But it's still just a rubber ducky. I think what's really nice is that you can just POC new technologies very, very quickly. This is one of my favorite things about it. You don't need to kind of go find that perfect blog that sets everything up, that's up to date, etc. But the issue of that is that it's not up to scale standards or like code quality standards. So just be careful. I think it's fantastic at analyzing code and giving feedback. One thing that I do often is I write my code out and then I just ask AI, tell me what's wrong. And AI will usually be nice or not too nice and tell me I should have added this. I should have reformatted this log to be like this, etc. Maybe use a for loop here, build a map for quicker lookup here. It's very nice in those situations. So I recommend that 100%. The code reviews are a good example of that. The con is that it doesn't really have the project business context. You can't be like it might change how you output a certain string that we display to the customer without knowing that that's how the business requires it. It's very strong at analyzing stack traces, and I find it very useful for giving me quick SQL issues, like why is it not grouping? Why is it this, that? And when you give it SQL, it does a great job of analyzing it. Same with errors, with just like logs, like why did my consumer not published. Like, oh, this clearly indicates that your the Kafka server that I was publishing to is broken. But I've noticed that it still hallucinates solutions and gives misleading advice. And sometimes you do need to do the time-old solution of turning it off and on again to refresh it and make it great. And the number one pro, I think, is autocomplete. I love typing out two letters and then seeing what I want to write and hitting tab. That's the number one thing I think that I appreciate about AI. And as usual, and it's really great for writing constructors and whatnot, but I've noticed it doesn't check if code compiles. It kind of just outputs haphazardly at times, and sometimes it gets in the way. So, and I've had to like turn off the autocomplete, sadly, but very strong. And yeah, overall, I think in the day-to-day, it's very good, but we need to make sure not to treat it as something that is the genius that we've been waiting for to build our next project. We need to empower ourselves for that. And so ultimately where I see in it in the future, I'm very high on AI. I think that like I'm bullish on it. I think that it's going to give us great productivity skills. It'll allow us to prototype quicker than ever before. But I think ultimately, and I think quite importantly, I don't think that it's a valid replacement for us. And I hope that we don't build it that well. But there's just parts of it that it struggles. I don't see it succeeding. Like even if you build your AI only on like the base knowledge it's built on is only on your project, your code, your business. It knows all of your business context. You set it up for success. I still think that there's just nuance that we will need to be able to figure out in decisions for, especially for design decisions, where people need to discuss and hash it out more so than just using AI, but more so than just relying on AI. And I think that that's kind of the best part about it is that it can deal with lots of the mundane things, but the really interesting skills and the really interesting concepts, such as just, I really like system design and regular nice code patterns. We're still going to have to be in charge of that, in my opinion, which is great because we'll have more time to focus on that instead of just building out like all the JSON in the world to test my complicated nested API or nested object in my API. So yeah, that's kind of the whole spiel of the whole discussion. And I would love to kind of get people's thoughts on AI and also maybe even do some pair programming and run some prompts and see what AI comes up with and see how we can improve it better. And also hear about what you guys think, if I'm totally wrong, if I'm right, etc. Oh, Ayman?
Hello, Ribhi.
Hello,
Thank you so
Ayman.
much. This is so insightful. I wish I was had probably half of your knowledge in coding. I'm fully relying on vibe coding as you just described it. But I'm gonna ask you a really quick question. I don't know if it turns out to be true. This is definitely unequivocally a small word. Have you ever do you know a person called Jamil from New York? You guys work together in. You know him?
Yeah, I think like I'm forgetting his last name, but from Chicago.
Yeah, you guys worked on Palestinian youth movement, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, all right. I was the past week I was showing him the startup I'm working on right now. I'm the sole developer and I'm actively looking for co-founders. And when he really liked the idea and he said you definitely need to talk to Ribhi. And he told me a little bit about you, but small world, here we are. Like I've
Yeah,
never imagined I'm actually gonna meet you right here. So thank you again. I'm not gonna take any more time of you or any of the
yeah.
participants, but
Feel free
we'll
to shoot
definitely
me.
catch up later.
Yeah, I would love to. That's very funny. It's a nice small world. I
Yeah.
love.
Thank you so much.
Here's my email. I didn't see the chat. Sorry. I also notice. I think it's very. I think AI is great at note taking, and I'm happy to see lots of note takers that are AI. But yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Ribhi, I think someone is asking about the company that you're working with currently. If you
Oh yeah.
can.
Of course. So I work for is like Is Tech Valley, which is a subset of Izdihar. It's a company based in Khalil. It's like kind of startup themed company. Where right now we're focusing on building out a point of sale application called Baraka. Hopefully, hoping for launch on August, beginning of the next month. And it's been great. And we're also do a lot of mentorship for the youth in Khalil area. So yeah, I'm happy to ask any questions, but answer questions specifically to it. And it's been a real pleasure to work with them and work for them, and to meet the talented Palestinian developers and yeah.
Amazing, thank you. في حدا بيحب يسأل أو يستفسر عن إشي معين؟ تفضل أسامة. أهلا أسامة.
Hello, hey guys. Hello, Ribhi. Nice to meet you. It's really was a very useful session. Thanks for sharing all that. I'm curious about some use case to use an AI. I've been using AI in my daily coding use. Not very. I don't rely on it most of the time. I prefer to go to the docs actually first and yeah, refer to the to the makers and to the authors of any technology I want to use first, because it's the best reference. But I'm curious of how we can use it when we have a deployed infrastructure and there's no kind of source of truth for all of your infrastructure. Like I know, like modern companies and like large scale companies use maybe some platform like infrastructure as code techniques to have a single source of truth for that. But in case you don't have something like this, or you have it partially, do you have experience on like how to let the AI know about your infrastructure setup and how like to let them or let it help you debug the issues you have?
Yeah, I think I have like some thoughts on that. I think a lot of companies do because you're familiar with what AI is basically training on data. It's just linear
Yeah.
algebra. So if you base your there's actually a good brain gain discussion about it. I'll try to I can send you. I'll try to send the. I'm sure Sana will know the name, but a lot of companies are using their own code base to build it and hosting the AI on their own servers. So to just kind of ensure it's kind of secure, they're not just uploading their code base to a different project or to a different company, and then using that as the base level training, and then it uses the World Wide Web for the for a kind of supplementary, but it defers to your projects. So I've seen that as a way to kind of bias it towards your patterns, and I think that's very strong. As far as like getting, because I know a lot of bugs are, especially microservice infrastructure, when you have 5 different projects that are involved in this big setup that leads to this one error, it's kind of hard to. I think that like the best way to solve that will always be to just understand your system personally, to like know where to look, and having like setting yourself up to success, having detailed logs, having detailed like point stack traces, not just having like error. And I think that when you have that set up, when you have strong logs, when you train AI on the logs, like I mentioned, Sentry has this tool. Datadog probably has a tool on it too, where you can kind of summarize and generate a summary of what happened to these patterns of logs. That can help with the debugging. At the end of the day, it's really all about the data you give it. Like if you give AI no good logs, no good none of the code that you're looking at it's not going to know the answer. So you have to really set it up for the success there. But you seem like a experienced developer and a good developer if you're looking right at the docs. So you know probably the best way to find the bug is to really like get nitty gritty into it and understand the lines of the code yourself, because oftentimes it's in the least expected area.
Yeah, definitely, I agree.
Yeah.
But like, like not always, like you don't always find your answer right away. Like sometimes it's a
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
tricky.
We've all been there, unfortunately. I would love for AI to be amazing at the bugs. I hope so. That's the worst part. But I think at the end of the day, maybe documentation as well. I hate to say it, but having good documentation.
Okay, thanks.
No worries, Asana.
Thank you أسامة. اوكي. حدا تاني بيحب يسأل أو يعمل مداخلة؟ شكرا عبد الحميد. Perfect. Okay. With that being said, we still have 9 minutes بس إذا ما حدا عنده أي مداخلة أو سؤال أو إذا تذكرتوا بعد ما نخلص الويبينار تقدروا تبعتوا لي على الإيميل أو على الواتساب على جروباتنا. أهلا وسهلا فيكم أي وقت. أكيد بحب أشكر thank you so much Engineer ربحي for this insightful webinar. We really enjoyed it. Thanks for the time you invested with us. وإن شاء الله I hope for much more future collaboration with you. Either like in other projects, not only Brain Gain إن شاء الله. وشكرا للجميع على حضوركم ووجودكم. كثير مبسوطة في العدد الموجود معنا اليوم وعلى تعليقاتكم. Thank you ولاء. فإن شاء الله بنشوفكم إحنا كل شهر بنعمل ويبينار جديد مع متحدث وخبير في قطاعات مختلفة. فكل شهر إن شاء الله بننشر عن جلسة جديدة وبنبعث لكم على الإيميلات وبحب إنكم تسجلوا فيها كمان. شفت في حدا بعد سؤال I think محمود الشوا.
Yeah, I'm reading the context. I definitely agree. I've noticed that I think one problem is noise. I think AI struggles with noise in the sense that having a lot of similar data that kind of obstructs what it says. And then I've noticed also when it gets on a track, it stays on that track, even if you're like, no, this is incorrect. Here's the context why. And you really need to kind of hammer it down. But yeah, I'm curious about how you actually get the surgical level of context attachment. I'm assuming it's like the specific files within Copilot. And then, but yeah, I agree. Like, if AI doesn't know, it seems like AI doesn't understand what you're aiming for. You should probably be feeding it files for it to understand your specific context, or even simply typing in basic requirements or understanding. And then Abdul Hamid, with the increasing integration of AI tools into scalable development, do you think AI can play an important role in identifying and preventing security vulns in web apps during the development process? I think I'm not too good at it's funny, I worked for a cloud security company, but I'm not like the best to understand capturing vulns. But I do know there's lots of amazing tooling in general for vulns and using, I think Sneak has an AI, and I'm sure that the Sneak AI has a lot of initiatives in this space specifically within security vulns. And I think that especially with with this space where there's lots of output, lots of available data, I think that it'll definitely be very strong in it. I think because ultimately vulns are important to detect and understand solutions for. I'm not sure how it will be at using AI to program in a way to exploit or discover vulnerabilities. I'm not too sure how that would be. Where it would be strong there. I still think you need to kind of have a hacker knack for it, but I definitely do think there's a space for it. And then for Arwa, the most important courses. Oh, my LinkedIn. Yeah, I'll throw them on. The,
Ribhi, I'll grab it for her.
sorry, that was quick.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. You're faster.
I have my LinkedIn at a hotkey.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
But I think like the most important courses on artificial intelligence, I think it matters what you're going for. If you want to go for a deep level understanding of AI, I think you should, like, you can. I haven't actually taken a course on LLMs, and I think there's been major breakthroughs in the past 4 or 5 years that if you go to like old school AI courses, they won't get to. So I think it's really important in this like fast evolving space to be really up to date and focus on like the brand new, like even looking at the white papers, like it's the most educational thing you can do, and it might be the most scary thing you can do, but it's just like looking at the code and the white papers and how they designed the systems. Like for example, the DeepSeek white paper that happened with regards to how they were able to do it to perform strong LLMs with very little energy footprint. Like these kind of people are publishing their work, and it's really important to keep up to date and read those published works to fully understand the space and learn the most out of it. As far as using AI, and like building like leveraging it in your programming, I think the best thing to do is really experience, but making sure to kind of, if you're brand new to it, giving yourself kind of checkpoints to evaluate what you've done so you don't end up on bad habits. Because if you just keep building something without checking up on it, you're going to end up, and it happens to me a lot, you're going to end up doing something wrong fundamentally in the beginning that you've committed too much to, that it's too much to track back and fix. So just iterative experience and reading up on the latest technologies.
Okay. Thank you so much. Perfect. I think you answered all the questions that were dropped here. Anyways, time's up هلا. Thank you so much. Of course, Amjad, thanks for coming and participating here. Again, Engineer Ribhi, thank you so much for your efforts. We truly appreciate it. إن شاء الله رح أبعت لكم feedback link كمان لأي ورشات